Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Candid Campus. I'm Katie, and I'm here today with Elizabeth Webb, Senior Instructor in the Community and Emerging Media Department. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hi, Katie. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So let's get started.
Mhm.
You grew up in Burlington, Kentucky. What was it like growing up there? And then what brought you here to Aiken?
Well, growing up in Burlington was an amazing experience, right? I think where we grow up in those early years of our lives really end up shaping the people that we are. And so I was very lucky to grow up with an extended family in Burlington. My mom and dad were able to, because of the GI Bill, buy a house that was right next door to my dad's parents. And at that point in time, my grandparents in their home, my aunt Frankie, who had been recently divorced, and my Aunt May had moved in to live with them. And then on the back of that property, my Uncle Kenny and his wife, my Aunt Retha, they lived in a trailer. And then my cousin John lived in the house with my grandparents and my Aunt Frankie. And then my cousin Ken lived with my Uncle Kenny and Aunt Retha. And so I lived in the house next door, across the creek, up the hill, with my mom and dad. And then when my little sister was born, Laura was a part of that. And so those memories are memories I'm always going to cherish. And I remember early on not understanding the idea that not everybody saw their grandparents every day. That was kind of an expectation. We even had a little bridge that went across the creek so you could go see grandma and granddaddy every day. And so being close with my family in that way, I think made a huge difference in the person that I am. And then also my mom's family, they were also very close too, just not next door. But it wasn't like people lived far away. We all lived in the same community. And so I grew up with just a big family around me all the time.
Yeah. So what brought you here to Aiken?
Oh, the second part of your question. Good question. So I was, after I did grad school, I really thought I wanted to do research mainly. But then as I was doing research, I really kind of missed the teaching part of it. Teaching is not what I had done a ton of in grad school, as part of my job had been a teaching assistant, but the majority of my time in grad school, I worked as a research assistant. But I would teach classes on a regular basis still. And at that time, I would only teach like one class a semester as a graduate student. But I enjoyed those experiences. And so research is fun and it's great and it's so valuable. The kind of research that I was working on was stuff that was funded through NIH, and I think that work is really important, that we continue to do that so we can learn and contribute to the overall understanding of our world. But there's also a part of that where the teaching part comes in too, in terms of how we learn and how we explore the world. And I just really wanted to interact with students more. And so I started applying for jobs, and this is one of the jobs that when I came for the interview, I was just blown away by the students. All of the interviews I did, there was at least a tour with a student. But here, not only did I tour with a student, but I actually had part of my interview with students. And in talking to them, I just really loved the way USC Aiken worked. And then also one of the things that I thought was really cool, none of the other programs that I was applying to had a capstone as part of the core for the department. And so that was something that I thought was really, really cool about here as well.
Yeah. So you briefly talked about your family. And one thing you said you can't live without is your family.
Oh, yeah.
So how has your family shaped who you are today?
Well, I think that all the best parts of me come from those people that were a part of my life. I think that without me even really realizing it, some of the values and ideas that they instilled in me, the idea that you should be kind to people, that you should try and understand and be empathetic. And the other thing is, I feel that because of some of the things that I watched my family do and the people in my family do, I always felt a really strong commitment to community and community service as well, and sort of civic responsibility, if that makes sense. One of my favorite memories of growing up is how my family members would take me to vote with them. Like, the little kid that goes in the voting booth and I get a sticker. But like, those were kind of things that I would, those are things I would just never take for granted, because that was so much a part of how we did things growing up.
Yeah. So love your family and friends. If you could have an entire day together with them, get them all together, what's one thing you choose to do?
I would love to have all my family and friends I wouldn't want us to all be in the same house, but I would love for us to have a series of beach houses because I love the beach and I would love to be able to be there. And so that we could all have our pets and we could have, and we could hang out as much as we wanted to, but we'd also have our places that we could go. But I would love to have that. And, my parents don't come here and visit very much, but this summer I had surgery and my mom was in town and she stayed with me for 2 weeks. And it was, even though, it's not the greatest time, but one of the things that was nice was being able to have my mom be spending time with my friends from Aiken while she was here. And that was a nice experience. So I can only imagine how much nicer it would be under better circumstances where we're all hanging out somewhere where we really want to be.
Yeah. So besides your friends and family, one hobby you said that you have is watching TV and reading, especially in the science fiction, horror, and crime genres. What is it about these genres that keeps you coming back to them?
Oh, I've never thought about that. I think there's just something that really resonates with me with those. And it's just something that I think as soon as I started reading in those genres as a kid, because it's a lot easier to get books about horror and sci-fi than to watch the movies when you're a little kid, because nobody's letting you, right? But most of the time at the library, people aren't really checking that very, very closely. And so I think for me, I don't know what it was, but like as soon as I read like my first horror story, as soon as I saw like scary movies for the first time, and I'm talking about like the ones that would be on regular television when I was growing up. So I'm talking about old school, like Hollywood horror movies, like the Dracula, the Wolfman, that kind of stuff. I just was always drawn to them. And I think there's also an element of that where I've always liked sort of what's actually being discussed, right? Because, most of the best horror stories and science fiction stories are really talking about things that really matter to us in our lives. And so I think that's I think that's sort of how I got hooked on that. What was your question again? I just want to make sure I'm getting it right.
What is it about these genres that keeps you coming back to them again and again?
Yeah, I think it really is the idea that it's the story kind of under the story in all of those. For example, Night of the Living Dead, the first time I ever saw that black and white film, I was obviously probably too young to have seen it, and I'm not sure exactly how I managed to see it. But I just remember how I was just so struck by some of the commentary that was happening about what was going on at that particular historical moment. Even as a kid, I could kind of tell that. And so it was really fun to me, right? It was fun to me to sort of look for what is that story underneath and see how it connects and makes comments on the world that we live in. And I know a lot of people stay away from the scary stuff or the gruesome stuff. But for me, those kind of stories kind of help me, I think, manage the things that aren't that great about the world. Being able to sort of look at them through that sort of different lens has been a way of sort of wrestling with some of those questions and ideas. But yeah.
Yeah, I've never thought about it like that before, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So staying on the media train, bad movies and miniseries are something that you said is your guilty pleasure.
Oh, yes.
Do you have any, do you have some favorites that you'd be willing to share?
Well, so I think there's the thing where there's there's kind of like this difference between the ones that you clearly know were meant to be really sort of campy. There's a great one, but it's funny because it's Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig. They made a Lifetime original movie called A Deadly Adoption, and it follows like all of the basic, it follows the basic storyline of a bad Lifetime movie, but it's Kristen Wiig and Will Ferrell, and and it's beautiful. Like, it's great. Like, it's one of my favorite Lifetime original movies of all time. Now, I think the other thing, I'm not always sure sometimes if people are in on the joke. Mm-hmm. Like, that was one where people were obviously in on the joke. But one that I watched recently was, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the actual name. It was a fictional mm-hmm. telling of the Natalia Grace story. And it starred, what's her name? Meredith from Grey's Anatomy. I cannot think of her name. And then also a guy who's a director and has been in a lot of stuff, played the father. But there was something about that was just, I just was watching it and I was like, is this genius? Or is this terrible? Like, that's what I like. I like a movie like that, or, a TV series where I'm like, oh, is this terrible or is this genius? I think sometimes that's the way I feel with the Ryan Murphy movies, or his TV series. I think another one that the Menendez brothers movie, that miniseries, that was another one where I'm like, wait, is this genius or is this terrible? I can't really tell, but I'm into it. I'm into it either way. And so I really like those. I like a mini series that's sort of campy and over the top. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, that's so fun. So switching gears mm-hmm. into professional. You've been at USCA for 13 years. Yes. And you kind of talked about like what first brought you here and what you love about USCA. But how has your role evolved over your years here on campus?
I think one of the things that I was just really lucky to come into a campus where if you were willing to do things, people wanted you to do it. So I don't know that it would have been like that in any other sort of professional setting, but right from the beginning, I was able to get involved with a lot of different things on campus. And so that allowed me to get involved in working with student organizations and doing workshops across campus. And it allowed me to get to know people outside of just my department, outside of my college, outside of the faculty, in a way where I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of how this university works, because I've had so many opportunities to work with people in a variety of settings and sort of learn more about what they do, that it's a really comfortable place to work. Now, I will say kind of how things have evolved. I would have never thought when I started here back in 2012 that in 2025, I would be the one that would be I'm the one that's been here the longest in our department. And that to me is something I did not expect. And so sometimes that feels a little weird because, it's like I have these memories about how things used to be. But it's also been fun to see how everything has kind of grown and changed as well. But I would say that one of the things that I really like about USC Aiken and our department and my position is that I've been able to craft a professional life that I enjoy, where I have the opportunity to take on challenges and people will trust me with those things. I also feel like I'm in a position where if it's too much, I don't feel like I can't say that. So I'm in a really good position in terms of being able to do the things I really love, and I can really focus in on the things that I love more about teaching and working with students. And that's been the really cool thing about this particular university and department for me.
Yeah, that is cool. What does your day look like as a senior instructor?
Well, so I do still teach primarily face-to-face classes. And so most days I'll have at least 2 face-to-face classes, unless I'm teaching an overload, and then I might have 3 face-to-face classes. And then the rest of the day is meetings with students, meetings sometimes related to committee work that I have. And then the rest of that is trying to do the research, the grading, all of those kind of things. But one of the things I talk to you all in Workplace Comm about is, and one of the reasons why I want you to do that career research interview in that particular class is so you can ask that question of people that you might want to go into that particular profession, because I think that's something to really think about. I would not be happy if my day was just doing the same thing all day.
Yeah.
So for me, the fact that I have plenty of time to get up in the morning, walk my dog, come into work, do some grading, do some planning, get some things ready, then teach my classes, go meet up with somebody on campus, grab lunch, and then come back, do office hours, meet with students, do the grading thing, have department meetings when we need to have department meetings. Like, being able to have that variety in my day is something that's very precious to me. And I'm glad that I realized early on that that was the kind of sort of work that I wanted to have, that I wanted my day to be one that is full of variety. And also, I think one of the cool things that people maybe don't think about is that there's usually something that comes up unexpected. Maybe not every day, but I love problem solving. And so the kind of things that come up with like advisement questions or curriculum things, like there's a lot of these problem solving things that come up on a weekly basis, if not, a bi-weekly basis, that I really enjoy sort of digging into and trying to come up with solutions. And I think that's another thing that makes my days pretty fun.
Do you have a class that you just really, really enjoy teaching that, like, you get started into it and it's just like, this is so cool to be able to talk to the students about and teach the students about?
So that's really hard. I feel like that's picking like your favorite kid, right? Because I think that all of my classes I love that all of my classes are about, we talk about things about creating the best life for yourself and the people you care about, right? In interpersonal, that's something we talk about. In Workplace Comm, we're dealing with a lot of those same things as well. But I really do enjoy teaching the gender communication and culture course. I enjoy that a lot because I think it's fun for us to be able to have a space where we can talk about things and explore things and look at how people around the world see things and understand things in different ways, and how historically that has happened as well. I really enjoy that. But then I also really, really enjoy teaching the health communication course because for me, discussing the patient-provider communication and then also the public health aspect and ideas of how we try and create health messaging that actually helps people, and considering it's a lot of problem solving in that too. But I would say those are two classes that I'm glad that I always get to teach. But I love the fact that I teach interpersonal every semester because it kind of reminds me to keep working on the things that make you a more competent communicator. And I think that's really good for my relationships, not just here at work, but the relationships with my family and friends.
Yeah. So we're going to move into a little bit of like, I don't want to call it personal reflection, but for lack of better words.
Yeah.
You mentioned that learning to enjoy who you are and noticing a beauty in life has been a meaningful accomplishment.
Yeah.
Was there something that helped spark that perspective for you, or tell us a little bit about that?
So I think there were kind of a few things. So I have struggled with generalized anxiety disorder and depression since I was a teenager, not always knowing or having the words that describe that or a clear diagnosis of that. But by the time that had happened, where I did know that, and I had moments where I was doing good in terms of taking medicine and going to therapy, but then I would not do that. And then I would have these moments in life where things would feel just sort of overwhelming. And I think when you're in that place where you don't understand why things don't feel okay, and you're just like, but it should feel okay. And it's really frustrating. I think some people I think start to try and look for solutions, and it's hard because the hardest thing is trying to imagine that things could be better, I think, when you're in those situations. But I had a lot of support and a lot of great people around me. And over the years, when I would talk to people about how I was feeling, they would often offer suggestions about, have you ever done this, or have you ever read this book? And there was a point in time where I got introduced to some ideas by some different Buddhist scholars, I guess you could say. Like Pema Chodron was one, Thich Nhat Hanh was another one, where I started reading some of their books. And those, along with the books that came, I think, from my sort of cultural upbringing within the Baptist church, like those kind of things combined, I was like, there's a lot of very similar messaging here that I find a lot of value in. And I started just every day thinking more about what I was grateful for. And that allowed me to think about that many of the things that I'm grateful for, it's not these like big, huge things, right? It's these little things that are just amazing, like the little miracles that are around us every day in the world that we observe. And it's like, I'm so happy. Like when I walk around my neighborhood with my dog and I'm like, oh, it's a beautiful day. Or if it's a rainy day, I'm like, oh, this is a fun rainy day. We're going to go back inside. It's those kind of things where there was a point in my life where I don't think I would have ever thought that my day would be about enjoying those kind of things. And then all of a sudden one day you realize, oh, I'm a pretty happy person. And I never thought this could happen, but it did. And so I think it was a combination of time and listening to some of the people around me who didn't push me in certain directions, but just, I think, gave me the space to like think about how I could reframe the way I see things and think about life a little bit differently. That really opened me up to being in a place where I feel happy and content with my life the way that it is. And I can't imagine a gift more precious than that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful journey. You describe yourself as spontaneous when opportunities arise. You gave the examples like going to concerts or games if you get free tickets.
Yeah.
What's your favorite spontaneous experience so far?
Favorite spontaneous?
Like what's one like just that seems so wild?
Let me think about that. What was the wild? I don't know that anything I've ever done has been wild.
Okay.
But I will say that there were a lot of times, I know, here's a good one. So you know how we live here where the Masters tournament happens? I got tickets to go to that. Some really nice people gave me tickets to go. And, the whole deal is it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing for a lot of people. I know some people around here get to go more than once, but I don't think that's going to be me. And so I got someone to go with me because I had 2 tickets, and I just went, and I didn't tell anybody that it was like a Wednesday, and I just was like, peace out. And I spent the whole day there. And also, you can't have your phone available. So apparently a lot of people were looking for me. Like I did send out an email like, hey, I'm not going to be there. But people were looking for me and trying to get a hold of me. And I felt kind of like a rebel, Yeah. Like I felt like I was a bad kid in a good way.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm not coming in today. I'm going to the Masters tournament. And and it was fun. It was fun to have a day to just kind of do something for me and be like, I know this is something I may never get a chance to do. So I'm going to just do it and love it and feel a little bad in a good way about it.
Yeah. That's so cool. So to wrap it up, we're going to do a segment we call This or That.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you 2 options and like say the first one that comes to mind. Don't really think too hard about it.
And I'm not allowed to like waffle on it, right?
Yeah, no.
I can't be like, well, what if you gave me this as an option?
Right.
Okay. All
Okay.
Right.
First one, Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Okay. Text or call?
Call.
Sandals or sneakers?
Sandals.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
That one was quick. Movie date or dinner date?
dinner date, I need people to be quiet at the movies. I kind of like to go to the movies by myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, dinner for sure.
Okay. The station or the sack?
The sack.
Okay. All right. Well, that is all for today. Thank you for joining us on Candid Campus. We've enjoyed learning more about you, your story, and what you do here at USCA. And to everyone watching, be sure to follow Candid Campus on all socials at USCA Pacer Studios, and stay tuned for more Candid Campus conversations with people who make USCA feel like home.